Hard to want to do this after somebody that's really funny. But anyway, um, I got a couple poems I like to do. The first one's called Gambling Man. Big Jim Baker was a gambling man. A better poker player never played a hand. One night at the table sat tough Billy Teague, a cheating card player playing out of his league. Billy had been winning and now started to leave. Big Jim accused Billy of having a card up his sleeve. Billy jumped up yelling, "Big Jim, you're a lie." Big Jim whipped out his pistol in the blink of an eye. Billy stopped in his tracks and with a weak voice was able to mumble about putting his hands on the table. When his hands came up, Billy was holding a gun. Of all his mistakes, this was the worst one. Big Jim looked at Billy with eyes like a lion, said, "This time you've been caught, boy. Ain't no use in lying." Billy said, "You called me a cheat, but can you prove it?" Big Jim said, "I can, Billy. Your jacket. Remove it." Billy shook off the jacket and threw it at Jim and said, "There's nothing in there. You can rip out the hem." Big Jim tossed aside the jacket, gave Billy a disgusted look as Billy was screaming how he'd been called a crook. Others at the table, not sure of Jim's claim, said, "Maybe you're wrong. Let's get on with the game." Big Jim said, "He cheated. I'll prove it. You'll see. There's not a card player alive that could ever cheat me." Big Jim said, "Now, Billy, I'm calling your bluff. I know that card's in your fancy French cuff." Billy jumped back astonished and raised up his pistol. Big Jim shot him with a bullet the size of a missile. As Billy lay dead on the floor, no longer so tough, Big Jim pulled an ace of spades from Billy's fancy French cuff. This is called The Path to Glory. Three brothers grew up in poverty, striving to be all that they could be. Different paths they chose at different times, education, sports, and one chose crime. The athlete saw sports as his way to fame. He loved it when fans chanted out his name. His face was front page on the daily news, all because of him, his team would not lose. His brother dropped out to find another way and found out for some that crime does pay. He was making fast money, dealing drugs on the streets, ready to sell to everyone he happened to meet. He pushed powders and liquids and all kinds of pills, rationalizing if he didn't sell it, somebody else will. And he sold drugs to anyone who could afford to get high, from the oldest to the youngest, never batting an eye. Education was the road the third brother chose. To the top of his classes, he usually rose. He felt it important to excel in school, and he sharpened his mind like a craftsman's tool. Maybe fame and lots of money he would never get, but a college education he would never regret. The athlete got a scholarship to the best college in the state. His prospects for the future were turning out great. All he did was play football, never attended a class, but as long as the team won, coach made sure he would pass. The school racked up victories, he had his fame. For 3 years, the athlete was sitting on top of the game. His senior year was one everyone anticipated. Best player in the nation, said Sports Illustrated. In the third game of the season, he broke a bone in his shin. Doctor said, "Sorry, son, you never play this game again." Now he was baggage to be tossed aside. No longer the superstar getting a free ride. He doesn't matter anymore were the coach's views. He'd been replaced and forgotten like yesterday's news. He tried going to class and a week he was leaving. The only class he could pass was called basket weaving. He whined, "That'd have been great if I just had my chance. Now I'm back where I started, a victim of circumstance." The drug dealer's lifestyle was treating him right, a big man in his circle without a problem in sight. Pretty women and cars, a penthouse with a pool, but a proverb says money soon parts from a fool. He lived a life with expensive jewelry and clothes while most of his product went straight up his nose. And the brother who had figured he could have it all set himself up for his big downfall. He forgot the first thing a dealer must choose. If you're planning to sell, you must never lose, must never use. Now he was back where he started, not a dime to his name. The drugs he'd been selling, the drugs he had The drugs he'd been using had frazzled his brain. The one who chose school finally got his degree, and his master's and doctorate, then a PhD. He went back home and started a little store, and as that one prospered, he opened some more. But the thing really special about what he did was he made all of his employees neighborhood kids. He thought if you have something, it's your duty to share, to give hope for a future when no future is there. And all of those kids who never had hope now had a role model who wasn't into athletics or dope. Someone to look up to who could put them on track, and then they could succeed and give something back. His advice to the kids whose respect he had earned: stay in school. No one ever can take away anything that you have learned. Thank you.
One more time for John P., everybody.